So let's talk about that because it's the second episode with Franco Finn, the legendary hype guy, on-court host of your Golden State Warriors. I represent. You see that?
Yeah, my favorite year.
Yeah, is that your favorite year?
Yes, 2015. You ask people what was the most memorable. We got 4 championships, right, within this decade. 2015, hands down, just because it was the first one that kind of, jump-started the dynasty, if you will. But what was great about 2015 was not only that, it's been a long drought, but it was a 40-year drought to the date. 1975 championship, and then the 2015 championship, 40 years apart. So that was really memorable. And what I really enjoyed about that the most, Gary, is that my mom got to witness the 75, my family and all that. And then they get to experience it with me through my eyes 40 years later in 2015. I wasn't even born then. And then 2015, here I am living it and bringing the ring home in the whole 9. So 2015 was great. And the wonderful thing about 2015 is people didn't expect us to win. The Warriors, Mark Jackson was the one guy that said, "Oh, we got the best shooting backcourt in the NBA. Oh, you watch." And people were like, "What? Steph and Klay? Really? The best you've ever seen?" "Oh, yeah, we see them in practice. They can shoot lights out." I mean, it was just rumors. It was like, "Oh, okay, you're the coach. You're always going to say that." No way. They really were the best. And you know what? We went all the way. And that was like, I was like, wait a minute. Did we just go all the way? So to me, that ring is so special, and it's the best looking one. It's literally the logo, has the most diamonds on it. It's the best one.
Just to go inside basketball instead of baseball. My thing with Steph Curry, growing up watching basketball like that, I've never seen a quicker release of the ball.
Yeah.
And you've seen a lot about it. I mean, from the moment he catches the ball or he decides to shoot, has got to be a second or less.
Oh, yeah. And that is the big separator. I mean, Steph and Klay, their catch and shoot, especially Klay. People think my guy Klay Thompson, he's a Hall of Famer too, future Hall of Famer, because his catch and release is boom, boom. You remember the time I think he scored, was it like 37 points in one quarter or something like that? It was like really like the record in one quarter, which I witnessed firsthand. I was at that game. I remember it was the highest scoring quarter by any shooter in NBA history. His catch and release was like, he didn't even dribble the ball. He dribbled, I think, like 2 times or some crazy thing like that. And that's Klay Thompson. And what Steph's great about is he's so creative, right? He's elusive. I mean, you ask a lot of NBA guys that have to cover him, they are tired by the time they're following this little guy. This guy's like squirming, shooting, blah, blah. And then what he'll do is just, he creates opportunity. He's small, right, compared to all these guys. So he'll step back, he'll go in. He's just so creative. He'll just release, shoot. I mean, he's got so many options. That's why those two, were a very deadly combo.
Well, and people have to be reminded that, no, he wasn't the first overall pick in the draft.
No. Yeah. It's number 8. And New York almost had this whole debacle. He could have been a New York Knick if he got picked one slot ahead of the Warriors, right? And he was actually not looking forward, but he was expecting to be drafted by the New York Knicks, I believe. And, he kind of fell down to number 8 or something like that. And then look, the rest was history, right? So
that's crazy.
The draft can really can make it happen. But what I really love about the Warriors, and I'm not trying to be like a homer here, but really what I think what sets them apart is they are homegrown talent in terms of they were drafted and they're still here. I just saw today that Steph, Klay, and Dre are the longest tenured trio ever in the NBA. I'm talking Steph Curry, 14 years. You got Klay Thompson, right there, like 12-something years. Draymond Green, right up there, 11, 12 years or something like that. They're combined together, still here, and they want to extend their career. They're not going to get Klay now up on board with the kind of the 3-year plan, whatever that's going on, because that's going to be the close of this era to have these guys signed at the same time.
Because I can ask you this, because I have you in front of me, do you think that's why Durant never really seemed to have bonded, because he wasn't grown up, that he was brought in and he never got that feeling? And it was all in his head, not theirs. That's my opinion,
That
right?
now, a lot of it was in his head. Look, I worked with Kevin Durant on and off the court. It's funny because my day job at Alaska Airlines, I joined coming from Virgin when we got acquired, and the big news was, hey, Alaska Airlines signs Kevin Durant as their spokesperson, kind of like the Russell Wilson up in the Pacific Northwest for Alaska. And I was just switching, so I did this little fun post where Kevin Durant and Franco Finn join Alaska Airlines. I'm no comparison to the great KD, but what I got to do, my job was actually in marketing. Where not only did I was so excited because I remember that July 4th. I remember they said Kevin Durant is going to the Warriors. I said, no way, this is not real. And I'm like, a superstar? How the hell do we land this guy? And I was just about to basically start with my career at Alaska Airlines. So I'm like, I get to introduce him and I get to do all the marketing stuff, all the community stuff. And let me tell you, he's a solid guy. I'm going to first start off with, he is really, yes, he does have a lot of things in his head, but he's a great human being. He's got a big heart. He's given so much more money than a lot of people even know to his alma mater at Texas, to a lot of underserved kids in D.C. where he's from, and even the Bay Area. He's built courts. He's given so much money. That's under the radar, right? He's not the flash and dash. And I'll start with this, and then we'll get into his head stuff. But he said this to me. I had a meeting with him and his agent to say, like, how do you want to be branded, like, in the Bay Area? And we were talking about like Kobe and Jordan, like, LeBron is the king, Kobe is the Mamba, right? And Jordan is the air god, right? Everyone has this kind of like, oh, Nike's got you branded like this. Well, they were just like, I'm just KD. He goes, I don't like any of that stuff. He was called the Slim Reaper, the Snake. I mean, he had all these Durantula, like weird names. He's like, no, I'm just KD. And he equated that. This is where I said, this guy's different. He says, I'm like a Miles Davis in the NBA. He's talking music. Like, the guy has a music repertoire. Like, he really does. And he goes, I'm like a Miles Davis. Like, if you listen to Miles Davis, like, he's kind of his own thing, right? He's not the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. He's not Michael Jackson, the Thriller guy. Like, he's like this kind of, I don't know, fluid. Miles, like a brilliant genius that's so good at his craft that he's his own lane. And he said that. And I'm like, who would say that? Like, I would say, what artist are you? Like, you're not like the king, you're not like that. No, I'm KD. I'm like a Miles Davis kind of guy. I'm just cool, chill, but you're drawn to me, sort of thing. And I'm like, this guy's different. So that's where I come from, that head. Okay, now we go to why the hell did he not feel accepted? Look, I mean, he does. It's Steph's team, but Steph did take a backseat. That's what makes him a good leader. Is he allowed him to go there? Got the MVP in finals. We couldn't have won the titles without Kevin Durant, and Steph knew that. But there is something in there in his head, KD, the belonging of like, hey, this is not the team that I, grew up with, because he was with OKC, right? And he was drafted there, which was originally Seattle, right? And all that. And so he did build that kind of era, and they got far. But then what happened was, of course, they lost. And then so he just went to the other side, which what Chris Paul's doing right now. Battled so many years. Now it's like, hey, let's join the Warriors because I got to win a championship. And he knew it. And that's what you do. You win a championship. So that's why I don't understand why he left. But it is part of it is that, look, this team is all about Steph, but the fans loved him. He's a complicated guy. You know what I mean? He loves his game. He does all this, but he's complicated. He's like an artist, like a Miles Davis. Like, it's kind of, he's in his own world. And so it sucks. It just really sucks because I think we could have won at least 2 more, if not more. We all know that. I'm like, come on, Katie. And it was like the decision. Where is he going to go? And then he goes, I'm going to Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving and DeAndre Jordan. You're going with your buddies to Brooklyn. Then they got Steve Nash, which I love Steve Nash. I went to Santa Clara. I'm like, oh, God, this is dangerous. What's going to happen? And then it fizzled. They never got there. So now he's chasing now. Now he's in Phoenix, and it's like, well, Phoenix is looking pretty good. No Chris Paul now, this and that. Like, I don't know. It's just, It's complicated. He's complicated.
Well, and keeping in the Miles Davis vein, I mean, if you had to sum up the surface impression of Kevin Durant, it would be Kind of Blue, right? Which is the quintessential Miles Davis album. It's Kind of Blue, which is, he never seems to be that gregarious. And I love the fact that you shared with us that he was this wonderful man that he does all this stuff, because you get that feeling. You get the feeling he's a good guy. But you see joy in Steph. You see joy in Klay, and Draymond. You see joy. Even as jerky as Draymond can be, and he'd be the first to admit that, there's still that joy. You never see, at least to me on the outside, you never see that joy that radiates from KD.
Yeah, and there was a couple moments, rare, where they were just, they were unstoppable. They were firing on all cylinders. And I remember just, I just saw them shooting live, and once in a while you get a little grin from KD where he's like, oh yeah, we're in rhythm. This is unstoppable. There was those moments, or the finals, to be honest, when they did get that first finals MVP, first finals championship for him, there was that little bit of joy. Like, I don't think he regretted coming at that point. He was like, this is why I came here. He was hoisting that MVP trophy. I got the champ. And we know we couldn't have won it without him, because we were stuck. We were stuck, and we were battling these other guys, the Chris Pauls, the Kevin Durants at the time. And it was like, we got to do something. So the brilliant move was, let's get the big fish. Let's just do it. And convinced him. He said, we need you. You're going to play with a damn good team. And what did they do? They won it that first year. They got it the second year. They got back-to-back, right? And that was pretty freaking awesome. And that's where I was like, okay, this has got to be enough. But it wasn't enough. This guy wanted more, to say, now can I do it on my own? I mean, you're still bringing your friends no matter how you do it, but you didn't do it with your friends. You're doing it with some new friends. Hey, we transfer schools all the time. Like, there's people that do that all day. I mean, come on. You're winning championships. LeBron moves to Miami to win championships. All the moves, everyone's making moves so that they just signed Damian Lillard is going to Milwaukee.
What the hell?
Huh? Milwaukee? Mid-market. There's nothing against Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee. Great town. But you went from Portland, another mid-market, to now Milwaukee. But guess who's there? Giannis. Okay, now he's happy. Okay, it's all the same stuff, people. So KD, I just think we could have won more. Well, I still respect and love the guy. I really do. We're going to hang a banner down Chase Center. Latham promised that. But it was a flash in the pan. It was like, he came in and he came out. I have freedom of this. And if you're a Niner fan, like I am, Deion Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
good, very good.
Deion Sanders,
very good comparison.
Atlanta Falcons, one of the best quarterbacks. He went to the Niners for that sole purpose, to win it. And then guess what? He was out in a jiffy, and he went straight to Dallas. Like, what the? Yeah, but that's, he was like a Deion Sanders of the NBA for us. So, anyways.
Yeah. I think it's Katie is an efficient nickname. I mean, that is, and I respect who he is, but the Slim Reaper is one of the all-time greats. I love that. That's just...
No, the Slim Reaper, not a fan of the Durantula. That's kind of weird.
No, that's weird. And the thing we've learned from LeBron, of all people, that these superstar combinations don't always work.
No.
As a matter of fact, they're kind of rare when they work.
Right. To fire on all cylinders. And I mean, look, you got egos, you got superstars. I mean, look at Russell Westbrook, for instance. That man has bounced around almost every team now, thinking this guy's the glue, the key. James Harden, another guy, can't win it, running around, chasing around. Like, these guys are chasing around a lot. Like, I would just stick to the fundamentals. Like, this team's good. What do I got to do to stay with this team and just be the best darn player? Because this dynasty would be probably Lakers Celtics-esque. It already is, but, we got 4, championships. But you imagine KD stuck with us, and we now get 5, 6 You're talking Jordan Bulls. You're talking Kobe Lakers. You're talking like, I mean, Bill Russell's got a lot, but I mean, it's in that conversation. You know what I mean? And so that's what I would have thought of. I don't know who his friends were really advising him, but Kenny's his own beat. He beats to his own drum. And we kind of knew that. And I knew that. I was like, this guy's not the guy I thought. Like, he's very quiet, but he has little remarks, and really good guy though. When you find a little pulse in him, he does open up. I was talking about Maryland crab cakes when I did a photo shoot with him.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, all right, let me ask you this. Let's be real. You're from DC, Maryland area. What do you think? You've been in the Bay Area? You like the clam chowder out here? Is it good, the crab, the seafood? Or you like the Maryland crab cakes? He just smiles and goes, come on now. You're asking a Maryland guy. Of course, the crab cakes. We got the best of them. And then, he starts opening up and starts talking about DC, his whole area. And those are the kind of things like that. I was like, this guy's he's a good human being. He's just a little complicated up there in terms of basketball. And very good, right? But anyways, good moments. I wish we had them longer.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. I just love this conversation. It's, because not many times you get to go inside and all this stuff and that. And I think it's great. One of the things we were talking about right before we came on was about this event you did last night. Because we're talking old radio stories and just the job of what we do. And you've had so many cool adventures. And last night, and again, as we take this, but last night, tell me about the event again that you were doing.
So I was part of this event with Christy Yamaguchi, which is our favorite local Bay Area Olympic champion, 92 gold medalist, ice skater. She was hosting this event in a current theater of all places, like Broadway SF. You think plays and musicals. Well, it was kind of this cool little concept, and it was awesome. I got to promote it and be a part of it. It was called Unscripted, where we brought out the Niners legends. So you had Harris Barton, Dwight Hicks, Brent Jones, Steve Young, Ronnie Lott, those guys. It was like 5 of them in a conversation with Christy, moderating and that kind of thing. We had a little pre-event and then during event and post-event. It was just so awesome to like, first off, meet those guys and like see the Bay Area kind of come together. Like, she's ice skating, they were football, but together they're all champions, right? And they're just joking around. They're like, well, Christy's the only one who's truly a world champion here. By the way, guys, it doesn't matter how many Super Bowl rings you all won. She's really the only world champion on this stage, which is so funny. And then they were just talking about stuff like Tanya Harding and what was that like. And they're like, wait, this is not about me, guys. This is about your locker room moments. Playing with Joe and getting coached by Bill Walsh. And they were talking about the inside stuff in the locker room. It was called Unscripted as part of the series on Broadway SF. That was pretty darn cool. And then like today, I'm going to be hosting a little private event for Workday at the Chase Center for the Killers. Like, my week is just insane. And then I'll be doing an auction on Friday night. And then I've got some other golf tournament also on Friday at the same time, the Celebrity Golf Classic that I'm playing in. It's just every week is different. That's why I said it's a wild one, Gary, because I don't know what today's going to bring. It's a different day.
and you're right in the thick of it as all this stuff is going on. And that's the cool part about our job. And, you growing up the same thing. You never thought you'd get to meet these people. You never get to think you'd and hear their stories and stuff. And it's great. And being on that thing, that was the backstage experience in country music, which is what I was in for the long time. Yes. It used to be you would go in a room, you'd sit in a room, you'd sit there for 20, 30 minutes, however long it took for them to feel like coming in. And they would come in and the entourage would come in, then the star would come in, they'd stand on the side of the wall, and you'd walk up and you'd take your picture and they'd push you out.
Yeah.
Right? They'd take a picture and that was it. That was the experience. But it changed with Garth Brooks. Now, we had Garth Brooks at SAP, and Garth, we go back there, and they're like, okay, take your listers back. And so I had like 15 listers. And so we go back, and I'm like, okay, we're going to go in the room and wait. So we go in the room, and you have to understand, at this point, I've never met Garth Brooks. So you go in the room, I open the door, and in the room by himself is Garth Brooks. He's waiting on us.
Yeah.
And the first thing he does is, Gary, how you been? What's going on? How's the golf game? Blah, blah, blah. He had found out from his people, what do I need to know about this guy? Oh, he does the morning show. He plays golf, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, so he's acting like he's my best friend in front of my listeners.
What a pro.
And then he greets everybody, he sits everybody down, and he goes, you want anything to drink? You want a soda? You want a water? You want to look? Let me get you something. What can I get you? This is Garth flipping Brooks.
Wow.
So he gets done with that, and we sit and talk for a little bit. And then when some guy pulled out a program, and he goes, can you sign my program? He goes, did you buy that here? He goes, no. He goes, I don't sign anything you buy. He pulled out his billfold and gave him $20, signed it, and gave it back.
No way.
And he did that with everybody in the room.
Wow.
He did with everybody in the room. And that's why you just run. But it changed the backstage experience. And they started doing that. And then it changed again. A number of years ago, they come to me and they say, hey, Keith Urban wants to do a thing for his backstage fan club. Here's what he wants to do. He's going to have a stage underneath the SAP. He just wants you and him to sit on a stage and you talk to him for a half hour.
Wow.
I'm like,
that's different.
And so they started changing the way they did it, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it all changed. Now, that was me. I had done rock radio and pop radio before then, and that was scary, to say the least.
Oh, my
right?
God. I could only imagine.
I remember taking a group of young teenage girls backstage to meet Poison, the 80s hair band. And I'm going back there and I'm talking to the bassist. I don't even remember his name.
In front of these folks.
And I turned around and I said, okay, girls, we're done. We're out. I was in my 20s, but I knew this was something that did not be happening.
Wow, those rockers, huh?
Yeah. But you had it on the other side of it. I would love to compare what you saw backstage. What's the coolest thing you saw backstage? And because you worked at Radio Disney, what were the Disney stars like backstage?
So I'll tell you, this is funny because what a contrast too, because I was in the bubblegum pop era. Like you talk about pop music and that there's artists there, but this was at the time bubblegum pop as they called it back then because it was very squeaky clean, Disney, it was cranking them out like machines. I'm talking like, the Hillary Duffs of the world. These are some names that you may or may not know. Jesse McCartney, he's another pop artist. They were all part of boy band. Of course, the ones we all know, Backstreet Boys, In Sync, that really started the phenomenon, 98 Degrees. And then, there was the solo female artists from Jessica Simpson, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. I met all of them. And that was my era, right? That was the bubble, like pop, just really pop clean music, right? That teens, like you talk about, were going through. Well, let me tell you, there were a lot of different ones. And I met a lot of Disney stars, not to bash some folks, but some people where you see on TV, we all know, doesn't necessarily mean that's who they are in real person. They are actors, actresses playing goofy, funny characters. And when they're in person, it's a whole new ball of wax. I'll give you 2 examples and I'm going to put it out there because it was the weirdest thing that I ever thought because I'm a Disney guy. I'm older than a lot of these kids. And, I'm giving these tours and meeting some folks. But there was 2, Raven Simone, quite interesting. But part of that is I blame her. I blame her just her personality is because she's been a child actress since she was literally like 3, right? When the Cosby Show. So Raven Simone had a show called That's So Raven. I had to do an event with her in Sonoma at one of the fairs where we had to co-host together live on stage and music and all this kind of stuff. And it was going to be a co-host doing that. But that's awesome. Raven and I on stage, blah, blah, blah. Well, she wouldn't come out until we wrote a full-on script from beginning to end, and we're about 30 minutes prior to showtime. Like, well, how hard can it be, Raven? Like, hi, I'm Raven Simone, star of That's So Raven. Hey, kids, how you doing? You could freestyle this and I just need an intro, and then I'll take care of the rest. I need it written and scripted. Like right now, like we're about to get on. Like, well, I'm not going to go out there until we have it. And I'm like, all right, well, let me get on it. And so I had to write something up real fast for a little 5-minute bit. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, this is not what I was planning on doing. So like things like that would throw me off. And I'm like, you're like a Disney star. You've been, a child actor since day one. Like, you should know this stuff. But then you know what? She, as 3 years old, I can only think about it. So I'm not going to blame her or anything.
Yeah.
When you're 3 years old or 4 or 5 years old, you have given to you on a platter, and you're like, hey, 5-year-old, can you say, like, you're instructing her to say, so she was probably programmed with this where it's given to her every single time she gets on to perform what she's about to do. Like, she wants it outlined specifically, exactly. Because as a child actor, I'm sure she said, okay, Raven, you say this. When Bill Cosby says blah, 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 you say, oh, thank you, da, da, da. And like, it's all scripted. So I got that. So I was blown away. I'm like, wow, I'd have to write the script for Raven Simone. So that's one. Shia LaBeouf, brilliant actor, genius actor. They actually talked. He said that he was the Tom Hanks of his era at the time. Because if you ever watched, I mean, I watched it because I had to, but Disney Channel's Even Stevens, he was the star of the show. He's just like a goofy character. He's just got so much emotion. Like, he was so versatile, and he obviously played in Transformers. There's a couple Disney movies he did. But
Indiana Jones, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
That's right. And I remember this was a shock. I'm here at these press junkets, right? You go in. I'm in a hotel room at the Ritz-Carlton, or I think it was the Four Seasons. And I'm like, oh, Shia LaBeouf, what a great actor, this young kid. He's now branching out and doing his own movies. Great, talented guy. I'm thinking Disney, goofy kid. He's already kind of transitioned to his like young adulthood. He's smoking a cigarette inside of the hotel room. What the hell? And he's like, hey, I hope you don't mind. I'm like, I don't think you can smoke in a hotel room, first off. And number two, what the hell are you smoking a cigarette for? Right? And he's just smoking, puffing away. Sorry, don't mind me, man. Go ahead. Let's start the interview. And I was just like, okay, this kid is not a kid anymore. He's a grown adult now, and it's just hilarious. So that was the two shocking moments. The other third one I remember vividly, and this was more of a fun story, is Miley Cyrus and the Jonas Brothers. They did a little combined Disney tour together. This is towards the end of my career. Amazing kids running around like little rugrats, everything like that. I remember Billy Ray was back there as a dad, not Billy Ray Cyrus, but dad and mom with Miley. And Miley was just the it girl, starting to be taking the reins from Hilary Duff and Lizzie McGuire. She had her own show, Hannah Montana, right, which is such a big deal, Disney show at the time. And then the Jonas Brothers were this young, little preteen little rugrats running around, and that became the hottest concert tour in all of America, where they even beat the Rolling Stones in terms of ticket sales. So the kids had the buying power. I don't know if you remember this, but it was Miley Cyrus, Jonas Brothers. They were on tour, but the Rolling Stones came back that year. It was probably mid 2000, something like that, or maybe 2010, or maybe a little bit less. Anyways, it became the biggest concert ever in the country at the time. And I just remember these rugrats, and now look at them. They're like heartthrobs, and Miley's done her own thing. So it's cool to see these kids. And I say kids because they were kids. And then I'll end with this one. This is one of my favorites because it was one of my first interactions with pop music. Santa Clara County Fair, which you know very well.
Amen.
I interned, and I was just starting out, Radio Disney and all that stuff, getting into the whole media thing. I was part of the PR team at the fair. Well, NSYNC was the act coming from Germany, because they started in Germany in the Europe area, and they came down to perform for the first time in the Bay Area Live. I did not know what this NSYNC would bring. The masses came to the fair like no time. Like, these kids knew who we were. They were just breaking through because Backstreet just had a Quit Playing Games with My Heart just came out. So it was just Britney Spears had her song. So it was starting to come really big, this pop music thing. But NSYNC was right there at the Santa Clara County Fair. And I'm backstage with Justin Timberlake, JC, all the guys. And I'm like, oh, these guys are very popular because there's a big group waiting for them outside to perform. And they were like, just kids. And they're like, hey, I don't want this fair food, man. Are you with the fair and the radio station? I said, yeah. can you do me a favor? This is Justin Timberlake. He goes, can you give us some French fries from McDonald's? And then all the other guys go, hey, add some 20-piece nuggets too. The other guys were like, hey, can you put like a Big Mac? And I want a quarter pounder. And I'm like, all of a sudden I'm taking an order from NSYNC. He goes, you got a golf cart, right? I said, yeah, but McDonald's is. He goes, come on, man, just give us some French fries now. We want some McDonald's. And it was just so funny hanging out with these guys. They were like nothing then. They just first U.S., kind of performance, at least in Santa Clara in the Bay Area. And he really loves French fries from McDonald's. And I got to give it to him. I took a photo with them just to say, these guys might be big one day. And yes, they were big, very big one day, especially Justin, the youngest, who asked me about the French fries. And I'm like, that kid is now Justin Timberlake. What the? So that was my world. I got to see these artists right before they literally blossom into these icons that you see now today.
At Reed Animal Hospital, they treat your pet as if it was their own. Now, I'm a very satisfied customer. I can tell you they mean that. It's not a chain. It truly is about helping you and your pet enjoy life together. Dr. David Reed and his entire staff take the time to get to know you and your pet. I can tell you what I like. He's helped me better understand what my dog Luna needs and how I can take care of her more efficiently and kindly. Find them online at reedanimalhospital.com. 2 locations, Saratoga and Campbell. Little secret from me to you, Dr. Reed actually gives you his cell number so he can answer your questions and concerns. They really are committed to you and your pet. reedanimalhospital.com. Mike Council Plumbing is simply the best plumbing company you can get. I know, because I trusted my 60-year-old home to them. We wanted the best, and they stand behind their work and offer a 100% satisfaction guarantee in writing. They have an on-site training center. Their technicians never stop learning. They train 5 days a week to make sure you only get competent and reliable service. California real estate is too valuable to trust anyone else. Go to mcplumbing.com and enter the promo code Gary to get $100 off any plumbing service. Mike Council Plumbing. I trust them, and you can too.
Couple of things, because it stirred so many things in my head, because you just don't know. I tell people you don't know. Right? I remember, Club Rodeo, which is this little small bar that's called Club Rio, and it's a Latino bar every time unless we're there, unless KRTY.com is there, it's a Latino bar. But when we're there, it's Club Rodeo. And I remember years ago, we had this act and we're like that. And they're like, oh, well, we've got this young person going to come in. She's going to come in and sing a few songs before we open the show. And she's going to do the whole thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds cool. Well, she has to go on early because she's 15. And I'm like, well, okay. Yeah, her name's Taylor Swift. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. We have Taylor Swift. And I remember sitting there talking to her. Well, a couple of months later, we had another act, and they're like, hey, we're going to bring Taylor Swift back to sing some more songs. That's kind of cool, huh? And we're like, oh, yeah. So I always tell everybody, we had Taylor Swift twice at this little small bar. And then when she came back to open for somebody at SAP, she came in and she came into the station and did an hour of, literally playing the music, being DJ for an hour, right? And this was when she was on her way. Well, here's the other thing. When Julie and I we've been doing the morning show forever. When we hit our 25-year anniversary, we're on the air one morning. We're on the air the morning of the 25th anniversary. And the receptionist comes in and brings us a bouquet of flowers from Taylor Swift. And this is when she's now the biggest star in the world. And it's like... And she was such a sweet kid. She was such a nice, I may not agree with all of everything she says, but I will defend her to the day of what kind of person she is and who she's with. As far as she understood her audience, she really figured it out. My other thing is when we're talking about those child stars, and I've always had this theory that when they go sideways, whether it's Britney Spears, whether it's Miley Cyrus, whether it's, Justin Bieber, whatever, you know better than anybody how many Make-A-Wish things they do.
Yes.
Right? And my theory is there is no free. There is no free. There is a cost to be paid for everything, whether you pay it or you think you're paying it. And when you ask a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old to deal with literally life and death issues, you are taking such an unexpected toll on them.
Yes.
That is, and I've always tried to give these kids so much grace because they live a life. I've done stuff for Make-A-Wish. You've done stuff for Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
And as a grown person, it wrecks me. It wrecks me, but I understand it's going to wreck me. And I also understand the person who deserves all the sympathy is the family and the person going through it. But it's going to wreck me.
Yeah.
And I think those kids have had so much that Justin Timberlake can handle it. You know, there's some people who could understand how to handle it. I don't know if and the people who've gone sideways, you know, but Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera had her moments. Justin Bieber had his moments. I always wonder how much was the price they paid?
And that's the thing, you know, these child stars, actors, whatever, they go through, I mean, things that adults would go through, but at their tender young age, but they're not even processing like emotions. I mean, they barely have been on this earth and they're having to deal with pressures of money, pressures of fame, pressures of jealousy. I mean, you name it. Like, we're still learning and we're older. And you imagine these kids are getting all this at once, thrown at them at one time, and not everyone can handle it. And they will crack. And that's just the unfortunate thing about it. And some stay on limelight. Like Justin is, well, I love Justin because he's been a child star. He's gone through it, but I feel like he's got a southern sense of sensibility to him.
Yeah.
He lives in Tennessee. He's not the spotlight often. He's been married, still to the same beautiful actress. He didn't come back to NSYNC until. Well, right now, recently, there's all the news like, it's a comeback. Like, these other guys have been touring and just got right back on the saddle. But he kind of took his time. He's like, I'm going to do some acting. I'm going to do my little solo thing. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be a husband. Like, he did it. He did it pretty well. You know, and then there's the Britney Spears, who was his ex too at one point. And I'm just following her stuff on social media. I'm like, what is going on, Britney? Like, and she's such a sweet girl. Like, I'll tell you a story real quick. The first time that Britney came to the Bay Area, it was at Shoreline Amphitheater for her big show. And I got to be the radio station, obviously, Radio Disney. We were the only ones that played Britney Bubblegum Pop at that time. You know, before the whole Britney, like, you know, crossover, you know, the whole Britney Beam thing, you know, where everyone's like, oh, she's badass, whatever. No, she was like bubblegum, Southern girl, really reserved. I remember she had a huge entourage. But there was that moment I looked at her and I was like, she is part of a machine. This little sweet girl from Louisiana, and you could tell she was just like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. Oh, she was like that. And then her handlers were like, all right, Brittany, Brittany, you gotta do this, Brittany, you gotta do that. And then it was just like, oh, it was good. It was a pleasure to meet you. And da-da-da. Oh, I gotta go now. And it was like, all right, we gotta go. We gotta do the next thing. We gotta get on stage. And it was just like, can the girl just be a girl? I mean, she's obviously very sweet, but you could tell she was a product of a machine. And I saw that right away. When you're backstage, when you see these things, you know, they are a product of a machine. And I was like, this is a business. I get it now. Because I'm a young kid too. In backstage, I was just happy to be back there. And I'm like, this is show business. This is the business. Here's a sweet young lady that is, you know, got talents, got this. They marketed the heck out of her and they said, you're going to be our it girl. And she just, boom, blew up. But you could tell she was like a puppet at the same time. And that's where she got through all that legal trouble with, you know, the conservatorships and all that. So it all kind of comes back to the roots and how you grew up and how you viewed the world. These kids viewed the world so young, so early, where they had money, fame, and everything else that it may break you, and a lot of times it will, and you go through like a rebellion period, right? Don't they all do that? The Disney kids, you know, I hate to say it, but like Disney's awesome. They know what they're doing, but once they get out of that system and machine, you are like, woo, I'm going crazy. I'm doing this, and they're making the news in the wrong ways sometimes. So it's wild to see that transformation. You know, like I will always look at Miley Cyrus, no matter how weird, how goofy she goes, this, goes that. I'll always still see her as a sweet Southern gal that's just she's close to her family. Her mom, her and her mom are very tight, looks just like her too. But just a sweet gal that just is in the system. You got a famous father, she's been thrown in. Of course, she's going to break the mold and say, I'm going the anti-way. And, but I know she's grounded in there. You just got to find it at some point. But
well, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, because that was an experience that is uniquely you. Because I mean, you were Radio Disney for the Bay Area. So there wasn't anybody that you were sharing that with. So you got to see things that, and again, most of these, especially when child stars, when you add the video performance of being somebody you're not, I think that's, and that's not a criticism. That's just the part of the parcel of what they did. As you said, you think they're going to be this character, and they're not this character. And they live a life that you don't understand, that they're getting up at 5 a.m. and they're working, especially with, I always kidded everybody, especially in the music industry. We tried to kill musical acts. We would have them, when they were new, they had to be anywhere and everywhere. And I'll share this story with you. We had the band Perry. They were brand new. We had them scheduled to come in that night and play Club Rodeo. They get there. They were supposed to go on the stage at 8:30. They walked in at 8:28. No sound, no anything. These 3 kids who were in their teens and early 20s are just bleary-eyed. And I start talking to their mothers. They start getting all their instruments out and stuff like that. And they had literally got up and done a morning show in Baltimore. They were in, they stopped somewhere in Pennsylvania at like 10 a.m. to do a little quick thing. They were in Denver to do a thing at 2 p.m. Then they did something in Sacramento, and then they finished that night. So they started the day in Baltimore, and they ended it at night in San Jose, California. And was just nonstop. It was just like jaw-dropping. And I may have put on one thing, but I remember it was just, the main thing is that they had worked all day outside of travel. And that was common. That was just common. And so you had to get through. That was before the internet. That's before people could find your songs. That's before Zach Bryan has changed the equation of here's this kid who just a few years ago was singing songs on a phone from his bunk in a bed in the Navy, right? And now he's literally selling out Oakland. He's selling out stadiums, So you don't have to go through that gauntlet. But it's cool hearing your side to Justin Timberlake getting you to go fries. I remember I was in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Corey Hart, I wear my sunglasses at night, right?
Yes.
He comes up to me and he goes, hey man, they don't have any food here. Can you take me to get something to eat? And I said, there's a Wendy's about a mile from here. And he goes, can you take me there? I'm like, yeah. So we get in my raggedy car and we drive to Wendy's so Corey Hart can go through the drive-thru.
Oh my gosh. That's wild stories. I love, and these are stories that will just, I'll hopefully tell my grandkids one day, when I have my own kids one day, just to say like, hey, radio was it's a special medium. It's changed so much. We all know because everything's on demand. Pandora killed everything, digital radio, this and that. Like terrestrial radio, old school, dial by the whatever. And you imagine, we're a major market one here. But you imagine the little stations, the WKRPs of the world that are out there. They got some crazy stories too, I'm sure. But I think that's what fascinated me about this business is that you don't see things, right? You only hear it, right? Because it's the radio. But the stories behind it, that are insane because you just, there's no visuals. So you got to be creative of the mind, number one, when you're talking on the the radio. And I think that's what helped me in my craft as a hype man and MC, as an auctioneer, is that I could come up with things literally out of nowhere because you just got to go. You got to rap, you got to rock and roll, right? And we know when you're doing the shows, I did talk radio as well. You got 2-3 hours sometimes by yourself in a booth talking to nobody. You feel like you're talking to the airwaves, and you really just force yourself to be creative. And I started doing production stuff too, which is another, besides the talent work, obviously I emceed some of the largest pop concerts, in the Bay Area, like I said, NSYNC, Backstreet, Britney, all that. But it was the creative content that I did in radio, I think I'm also proud of. I remember this one story. This is my lesson to the world, to people out there, especially young folks that want to get into this business or whatever. Even if you don't know it, just fake it till you make it, right? I remember this one thing, and you can probably relate to this. But I'm only like 22 years old. I just got out of college. This is my first radio job. I love this station so much. I'd be the first one in, last one out, because I'm just one of those nerd geeks. I just wanted to be in it. I wanted to learn. I was playing with the boards. I just wanted to learn and play with let me record my voice here. This is after work. I'm like, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Oh, I can put in a filter. Hello, hello. Oh, this is cool. So I'm learning a little production. Well, it was like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. I kid you not. Sales guy comes in into the thing. He goes, is there anybody here at the station? I said, nobody, just me. I got nobody on. This is the KGO side. They're like, I have nobody over there. I can't find so-and-so. I need a spot for a client. Oh, why are you coming into radio doing for? We're the pop station. Don't you got clients over there? He goes, I need a spot like right now to prove, or I'm going to lose this money. What do you want me to do? You're in the studio, man. Can you cut up a spot and do a little demo so I can send it to the client and get it approved overnight and gotta be on the air tomorrow? I was like right now? He's like, I need it right now before midnight, man. I said, can you do it? You know what? Yeah, man, I can do it, man. Just give me a few hours and I'll produce a little 30 for you. Who's the client? It was Eddie Mountain, Eddie Mountain, the ski guy. And let me tell you, this is my favorite spot to this day, man. Oh, I said, okay, sink or swim, man. This is your mark. This is your time. You're playing with this stuff. Come on, you know enough to do it. Come on, Franco. You were a TV guy. You used to do editing. Same thing, it's just audio. But you got to get creative. I said, you know what, Adam? Give me a few hours. I'll send you a little proof, and we'll go from there. He goes, oh, man, you're a lifesaver, dude. You're awesome. Thank you. Shoot, what am I going to do? Anyhow, I read the copy, and I'm like, caveman sliding down the mountain, and then he realizes, oh, these sticks and twigs are not enough. I need to get some Eddie Mountain gear where I could get fully outfitted, and this is a caveman concept going down the slopes, and like I'm supposed to paint this picture that a caveman is looking for skis, and how is he going to do this? Well, I became the sound effects guy. I still remember this spot. I'm like, how do I get a caveman skiing down a mountain with the wind blowing? So I'm like, I'm creating like sounds. And then I'm like, well, what does a caveman even say? He doesn't really say much because he doesn't speak English. So I'm like, so I'm doing stuff like that with the wind blowing. And then it was just like, I don't know how my creative juices just flowed. And basically, I painted a picture of a caveman rolling down with some skis. They were like 2 tree limbs or whatever. And he's like, I need to go to Eddie Mountain and get your latest ski resort stuff. And I tell you, I put this piece together. It was a brilliant, brilliant piece. I spent probably a little bit more than 3 hours, maybe 4 hours on this 30-second spot. I said, all right, Adam, here you go, man. I've created a spot for you. I tried to put as creative juice as I could to it with the caveman going down. He goes, yeah, I think, all right, let me listen to it. And he's like, Eddie Mountain presents this moment in history. And then it was like caveman going down, and then he's looking for skis. And I had this whole thing, and then it was like, don't get caught in the mountain with whatever ski equipment. Go to Eddie Mountain and give you blah, blah, blah. I did everything from beginning to end. And let me tell you, he goes, damn, that is a brilliant spot. I'm going with this, man. I'm sending the client. Client loved it. Aired it the next morning on our adult stations, by the way, not my radio Disney station. And it was spectacular. I wish I had a spot here to play for. I've been digging for it. It's somewhere in my archives, but it was Eddie Mountain spot, which was probably one of my most favorite. It was my most engineered production that I had to produce literally on the 9th hour. So that is a lesson, y'all. Just take it, give it your best. They may or may not like it, but in that case, I was an artist. I was in my mode, and they freaking loved it. And that actually propelled me to do more spots and more production work. And they said, you got a good voice, kid. Can you do a little tag on this spot? And then I'm like, oh, wait, clients are going to start paying you for this? Yeah, what's your talent fee? Oh, $50. Cool, $50. I'll take it. I'm like, oh damn, I think I undersold myself. How much is that other production guy making? Well, he makes $250 a spot. Okay, $100 then. I'll do $100. I'm not like this guy. But then I started building confidence and saying, no, I don't have to be that guy. This guy. I'm my own guy. And so that's how you got to create your own value, where you're your own brand. I don't have to be like Joe Schmo over here. I can learn from the Joe Schmo, but I got to do it my own way, and people will like it, or maybe not. But you know what? You find it, trial and error. And it was just the most amazing, like, just resiliency that I've ever thought I had. I worked on it for like hours. This is amazing. And I was like, I can do this. And it was so much fun though, Gary. Like, I was looking at CDs at the time, and I'm like, what's the sound effect of like the outdoors? Well, I'm going to make my own wind. And then it goes, and then I would just create voices, and I was like, what are those Foley studios, right? Those Foley artists, which is kind of cool actually. But like, that's a lost art. I feel like you look up the Foley artists, they're making sound effects with like banging this and doing that. Like, I come from that old school where I appreciate how things were created, because now it's digital. Like, oh, let me find a branch breaking in the wind. Well, there's a track for it. Button 1. Like, it's all pre-programmed for you. There's something everywhere. But back then, you had to create those sounds. That's why radio, to me, was one of the most powerful tools, and it really did penetrate countries, people, more than TV did at the time, because people starting the radio. I remember those old transistor radios my dad used to have. You could listen about something, and you use your mind to create it. So I do love radio, and that's why I think you and I have a passion. How many years did you do it, Gary?
42.
Just 42? That's it?
Yeah, just 42. And then, now I still do it on the stream, which is the future, because radio's got its issues. And as technology improves, and all of a sudden you're able to get in your car, because what radio has, streaming has a button issue. When you're able to sit down in your car and push a button, and all of a sudden you pull up a stream, that kills radio and satellite radio, because now we're all that way. Yeah. But I love it, because here's my thing. First of all, in business, there's usually, you're either a production guy or an on-air guy. And every now and then you'll get a hybrid like you. I'm not a production guy. I don't like doing commercials. I don't like sitting down. And when you did that commercial, was it digital, or did you have reel to reel?
Oh, I learned reel to reel. But it was digital, but it was just starting out. Like, digital was, now it's a whole other thing. They got program software galore, but it was digital. I was using Cool Edit. Which was
all on the screen, but it's not. But when I started, I remember my first commercial, same thing. My first commercial that I did at a big radio station, not at the first station I ever worked at, but the first radio station. And it was 30 seconds, and I probably spent 3 hours on it, because you used to have to record something and then literally cut the tape and hold the tape and put it aside, and you would have to put all this stuff together, and you would splice it, is what the word was. And you have to put it all together. And I remember it was something about somebody was happy and they were bouncing. And so I literally would get in there and go boing, boing, boing. And I remember, I don't have that commercial either, but I remember it. It's still stuck in my mind about how long it would take. But for me, it was always about on air and what I was going to do on air. And it's like, it was, production was just means to an end, that I had to do it. Somebody had to do it. And the beautiful thing about doing mornings, if you get mornings and you become successful in mornings, then it costs extra to have you do the commercial.
It is, right. It's a talent fee. And you're in a different category, if you will.
Yeah. And I love the fact that it would eliminate a lot of it for me. I wasn't looking at, hey, can I get the money? I was looking at, man, I'm glad I don't have to do that.
It is a lot of extra work. But I was in the radio. This is where my advice to people is, like, sometimes you may not, like, I never had aspirations to be the on air. I just got thrown in and it goes, hey, you got a personality, kid, or the live hype man MC. Hey, you got something good here. But just don't be afraid to just give it a try. Like, I never produced a damn spot ever, but I was under pressure and had to perform. I said, okay, I got the basic fundamentals. I've edited, class projects for school a year or so ago. It's got to be the same thing. I'll figure it out or ask questions or look it up. And so you did. I became resourceful. But the station, like for me, like to take a radio, believe me, I wanted to be on FM so bad. I don't care what FM radio station. And I did for a little bit. I did a couple in San Jose, Santa Rosa. I did some pop and R&B. I did a little bit of everything, even CBS stations here in the city, because I just wanted to break out of that Disney mold. But I got to tell you, the Disney mold for me, and looking back now, 20-something years, 21 years ago, actually longer than that, about 25 years now, I'm glad I learned from a small station in a major market. Yes, we were at AM. Yes, we were not competing with the other big guys all around. I was always like the little guy station. But that gave me the kind of like everything, the know-how to just adapt and go and make a splash. You know how you're like a small mouse with a big voice? I literally was a small mouse with a big voice. Because you know what? Well, I remember this. This is how the hype man really evolved. Because I remember 94.9 was like, they would infiltrate all our pop concerts. I'm like, you don't even play Britney or any of these pop bands. This is 94.9 at the time. They would do guerrilla marketing. You're at Britney Spears. They're like, oh, we're going to put our banners there too before you guys. They would get there at 4 a.m. I'm like, these son of a guns, they don't even play this damn music. And then they would just do that. They'd put their radio band, they'd broadcast out of there because they knew that they had these teens that were influenced. They were trying to get them on board. Well, I said, not on my turf, man. And I remember 94.9. SAP Center, San Jose. It was called what? HP back then? Compact Center? I don't even know what it was.
HP, Compact, all of it. Went through that.
All that, and it was, you know what I'm talking about, under the marquee, right? The radio stations would go there. It was a pop concert. I think it was Britney Spears. Oh, no, it was Aaron Carter. It was Aaron Carter, of all places. Like, come on, Aaron Carter, really, like, you definitely don't play that 94.9. Well, I remember they were like, oh, yeah, we're 94.9. We're giving away prizes. I said, okay. We played him, and guess what? I got my Disney bed, and he would get on the mic. I said, I'll wait for the guy to do his thing. And I said, you know what? Franco Finn, Freestyle Franco, this is your time to shine. You show them whose station this is and who plays Aaron Carter. And guess what? I had his music, and I got all the candy in the world right now in my back of my van. And he had a song called I Want Candy. And so you know what I did? I got up on the roof of my van. As soon as that guy was done, I said, okay, you're FM station. I see what you're doing. Radio Disney. This is my audience now. I took the mic. I literally went on the top of the van. And I said, cue up the music, play Aaron Carter, I Want Candy. And I'm like, who's here for Aaron Carter? I just started developing this like crowd response. And they go, I want candy. Candy. And I'm like, yeah, I want candy. And then I was like, okay, you got to get louder than that because I'm going to throw some candy. We're going to shower it right now. Who wants candy? And it was just like this back and forth. I had tons of this like candy stuff from a vendor promoter, right? That we had to get out to all the kids. And I would just make it rain. Who wants candy? And it was just like, and I was like, I got you now. And I looked at 94.9 and said, you see, this is why this is my music, our station. I know these kids, and I know what's going to get them going. It's some free candy and playing some Aaron Carter because I got the song. And I knew I had it to them. And they were like, all right, you're right. This is your station. You know what it is. But they were doing it just because that was their job, right? They had to get in there and infiltrate. And I remember that moment. I said, oh yeah, I know how to work a crowd. And that was a kid crowd, obviously, at the time. But the parents were all like, you were awesome. I want candy. The crowd response. You threw it out, made it rain. I mean, it was like, Halloween, like right here. Like it was wild. And the kids were just like, oh my gosh, do you have more candy? And it was just, I just thought about it. Like I have all this candy. I got to give it away before the end of the night. Well, let's close it with a little I want candy, but you got to be a little loud for me. And then that whole block was shut down. I had kids coming from everywhere trying to get some free candy. But it was good. I wish I had video camera of that moment. But that's where I know I said, I'm different. I'm making some noise. And I know my crowds very well. I don't care who I'm up against. But this little voice, this mouse, could roar. And that's how my career started, really.
That's masterclass right there, Golf. That's a masterclass. Listen, I told you on our last episode, I said, I'm going to write down all my ideas for the funniest things that I remember in my radio career. You realize we haven't gotten to one of them. And we're out of time because I promised you I would get you out of here because you are the busiest man I know. So in a few months or whenever you have an extra hour, I want to go ahead and get on your list because I know you're busy. Don't commit to me now, but I will reach out to you because we haven't even got to our funny stories.
Oh my gosh, we could talk for it. We'll go about part 3. How about that?
Dude, I am so in. Franco Finn, you are the best.
Oh, you are awesome too. I just love our energy and rapport. And this is great. I mean, you meet new friends and you meet new people who've been in this industry, and like I said, you learn, you laugh. It's something that it kind of rejuvenates me. I'll be honest. So I cannot wait to continue our conversation. Throwing it back, looking to the future, everything in between. I love it, man. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.